Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Looking for Love in All the Wrong Dust Jackets, a show where three disgruntled harpies talk to you about everything we love in romance, whether that's books, movies, TV shows, whatever we like. My name's Liz.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Wiggles.
And welcome to the episode. Today, we are talking about the book Butcher Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. But before we get into that, I do gots to warn the people that we are crass and unhinged. We swear a whole hell of a lot. And we're going to talk about all of the naughty times. And also, this book is kind of gruesome in some bloody ways. So be prepared for that.
It was. Started listening to it at work. That was poor decision on my part.
I feel like at this point, you have to know better.
I do. I just was like, ooh, let's get this started. And then the warning started and I instantly texted you guys and went, what the fuck?
It's a book about serial killers.
I didn't read the thingers first.
I'll give you this, Danny. We have, read some that were pretty mild. Mm-hmm. But I think by default, you should just assume until you have really gotten into it that it's going to be raunchy. I mean, anything beyond that, it's kind of your fault.
Anyway, before we talk about this book, what have you guys been up to? Get me caught up. I haven't seen you in forever.
So I just finished The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about this. I haven't rated it yet. I'm leaning towards a 3.5. I mean, there were a lot of parts that I really liked. There were other parts where I was just like, this is just dragging, and I don't know why I'm reading it. But the end is the thing that's holding me up, because at the end, the character makes a choice that I fundamentally disagree with. And I'm like, do I dislike their choice, or do I dislike that choice as a writing choice? And I don't know. So anyway, it is very interesting. It's very popular for a reason. So I would still recommend you checking it out, but I don't know how I feel about it.
Fair enough. Sometimes you need to ruminate on it a little bit before you decide.
Mm-hmm.
I had an unplugged weekend. I went and lived in my treehouse for the weekend, so I spent much of my time chilling and listening to the rain while my little fire in my wood-burning stove went and being all peaceful and stuff. So I didn't do much of anything, and I really didn't read it all. I did re-listen to the audiobook for Ready Player One as I was falling asleep. I just tossed that one on because Will Wheaton reads it, and he can read me to sleep anytime. He also narrates the one for Martian, and he's very good at it. And then I guess when I got home on Sunday, I started rewatching the show Upload on Amazon Prime.
I've never heard of it.
I don't know what this is.
So basically the concept is that you have an option before you die, as long as, they catch you before you actually die, to upload, which basically means that they absorb your consciousness into a digital medium and you are put in a heaven situation.
Oh no, if I fuck with that idea, I'm okay. I've accepted that there's a very strong possibility that what comes next is emptiness, and I'm not afraid of that.
Yeah. It's interesting, and it's 3 seasons in, and I really do quite enjoy it. It's a good show.
It sounds interesting. I love a sci-fi. Let's just be honest. Sci-fi television show, I'm addicted. I'm a really bad sci-fi reader, though. I'll admit I don't do it as much as I should.
Well, an Upload follows one particular person. His name is Nathan, who he dies in a self-driving car accident, which is a little gruesome, honestly. So is him being uploaded. Fuck. Because they burn your head off. It's a little gruesome. And then Nora, who works for, it's called Horizon. And so she works for Horizon Lakeview, which is where he ends up. And she is what's called an angel, which is basically she's customer service for the uploads. And she helps create them. So she built his image up from all his memories. It's really interesting. Funny at times, really sad at times too. And
those are the good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're short-lived. There's a show called Dead Like Me. Fucking love it. I might have recommended it on the show before, but the premise is character dies, and if you are so many people on the list of a Reaper, having collected the last person they reap becomes the next reaper.
Yeah.
Makes you question a lot of things, but also has a lot of humor. Has Mandy Patinkin. Check it out.
Oh, I love Mandy Patinkin. What were you up to this weekend, Liz?
Living life. I read Outfield Assist by Kat Geraldo, which is the, I guess, standalone sequel, interconnected, whatever they're called, to Wild Pitch, which was one I read at some point in time. I don't know. Time is weird.
Time is weird.
So Outfield Assist is a thruple book about a Major League Baseball player, his strength conditioning coach, and the one of the statisticians for the team. And it's really interesting. It takes a very different look at sexual relationships versus romantic relationships, because one of the characters is gay as a man, but one of the people in the throuple is a woman, and they have a romantic but not sexual relationship, and yet they also all three of them engage in sexual activities together. So it's just a very different look at that, and it was kind of nice and refreshing, and I enjoyed it a lot. I gave it a 3.5 just because I think there are some pacing issues, and I think I wish they would have had more scenes with other people. Sometimes these books get way too focused on just the couple or the group, and it kind of takes away from the world you're trying to read.
If you like that, you absolutely, I know I've been pushing this forever, but you have got to watch Sense8.
I know. Here's the thing.
It's two seasons and a movie.
No, it's not that. The problem is I sit down to watch TV and I go, I know there are things I'm supposed to be watching, but my brain does not remember them.
I will text you after you leave. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our author, Brynne Weaver. Fun fact, the sequel to this book comes out at the time that you'll be listening to this, which is June 4th, in case we mess up and it doesn't come out the time that this book releases. Yeah, a little bit about her. She's been writing since she was a kid, including enjoying typing short stories out on her grandmother's typewriter. She wrote award-winning poetry and essays and dabbled in various forms of fiction over the years. And in 2019, Brynne committed to publishing more of her works and released her first nonfiction book under her real name, whatever that is. She then began focusing on her fantasy romance or romantasy series, The Diviner. Next up was the 3-part Shadow Realm Paranormal Dark Romance series, so check that one out too. And then partnered with Alexa Harlow, I don't know why I struggled with that at all, on contemporary dark standalone romance Black Sheep. I believe Liz has read this one.
I have read Black Sheep.
Danny, what's this book about?
This book is about 2 serial killers who are kind of Batmaning it. They are serial killers, but they're just killing other serial killers, other bad people. And they run into each other and then start a game where the brother of one of them sends a location and they have to find the serial killer in that location and see who can kill them first. And over the course of, I think it's 4 years.
It's 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Over the course of 4 years, they really strike up a friendship and then a romance and are having a lot of fun with each other. And there's some weird shit that happens. Let's discuss.
All right. Well, I'm going to kick us off with, let's talk about their names, Butcher and Blackbird, and where they come from. So what we know at the beginning of the book is really we're getting Blackbird, or Sloane's, point of view. She's got several names that she goes by.
Yeah.
Orb Weaver, Blackbird's one of them, and then there's another couple that we eventually have Rowan introduce us to. But Orb Weaver and Blackbird are the ones that we get the most from her.
Orb Weaver is what the world calls her as
Right.
a serial killer. Blackbird is just what Rowan calls her.
Yes.
And Orb Weaver was her chosen name.
Yes, she is the one who gave herself that name.
Yes. And the reason for it is a big focus in her murder spiel that she goes on is plucking, not gouging, people's eyeballs out their skull and then creating an interconnective web that essentially is a map to all the murders that she knows that they've committed.
Which the police cannot figure out.
I really liked that we got kind of two versions of serial killers in that sense, because she is the I don't want to say like the stereotypical one, but like she leaves trophies. She like has this whole elaborate thing she likes to set up. And Butcher or Rowan is kind of just like, sometimes I'll take a trophy, but mostly I'm just here to hack people up.
And she's meticulous about everything that she does. She plans out ahead of time. She gets the floor plan and dimensions of the house that she's going to be in and everything. So she really knows precisely how to set up the maps.
She's fully type A.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes into it with a desire for vengeance. And I think Rowan's approach is very different because he's looking for the release of his pent up rage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, he chooses to target bad people or other murderers, but like he could release his rage on anyone.
Yeah.
The one thing I like about setting up Sloane that way is it comes back a lot in the fact that she like researches Rowan's restaurant to know exactly like the layout and even hacks into like their scheduling system so she knows when he's working. And then at the very end, when he leaves her a very cryptic message when they're talking, she was able to figure it out. And I'm like, oh, that kind of just ties to the fact that she is always kind of thinking in that like puzzly way.
She even set up because it's technically, I think it's his restaurant. He opens a new restaurant. He calls it Butcher and Blackbird. But it's kind of their place because she's now moved in with him at this point and everything. But one of the reasons that she knows fully what's going on after she figures out the cryptic messages because she installed her own camera in the kitchen that wasn't tied to the others.
Yes. You know, classic green flag behavior.
Just normal couple stuff.
Just normal stuff.
You know, like you do. And then his name, it kind of comes from his approach to killing, but also is well, he doesn't get to pick his.
No,
he has a whole thing where he talks about you don't want to let the public pick your name.
Yeah, because his full title is the Butcher of Boston,
Right.
which they don't know, but is also like, in from the author's perspective, a nod to his job as a chef.
Yes.
So they from the jump, like she gives us a really good quick in look to the characters and who they are from just that little bit. Now maybe if you're not a true crime junkie, it doesn't hit quite as strongly, but for me, I was like,
very well.
all right, I get it. I'm on board. I understand who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have now read this book twice, and I do have one comment about the beginning when we're learning about Butcher. That man has got to stop thinking with his dick.
Indeed.
Because
He
like
makes some bold choices.
Right. Well, as soon as his perspective comes into play, he just keeps staring at Sloane's tits because she doesn't have a bra on, because he saved her when she accidentally got locked in one of the serial killer's basements, which happens again. She keeps getting locked into basements. And just the phrase "no bra" is on the page so many times.
Yes.
Like,
No bra.
Dude, stop it.
Does she have a bra on? I'm not sure. You better tell us again. I do like that though, because it felt more authentically a man's perspective than some of our books are, where I'm like, you have smoothed over some of the edges a little too much, in my opinion.
I suppose that's true.
It does come around again, though, because she got her nips pierced. And he was like, that wasn't there before. I know, because no bra. And you're like, sir.
Yeah. So, you know, what are you going to do? Rowan's a pretty boy, right? So I imagine his brain is kind of always finding the tatas. I don't know why I correlate those two, but for some reason, like...
Pretty boys like the tatas?
I mean, a lot of people like the tatas.
I mean, what's not to like?
Yeah.
I'm straight and I like the tatas.
I think they're fine.
But we do get a man falling first thing, and he falls fast and hard.
Oh, yeah. He's like, how do I keep her in my life?
Which, to be fair, could be a collection of both the sexual attraction that he has and also kind of meeting somebody he's idolized in the Orb Weaver. Because he talks about it in the book, at least in his internal monologue of like, holy shit, this is like a celebrity in the serial killer world.
And there's also, I think, a little bit of a tendency towards this obsession for both of them.
Yeah.
And so that like sprinkled on top of everything just like amplifies everything they have going on.
Yeah.
You can also argue to a degree that they meet somebody like themselves as well. So that is kind of an equality situation where he's like, okay, well, this person is on the same level as me. I can actually discuss and be myself around them.
Well, I think that's a big part of the reason that they fall for each other. It's certainly not the only reason, but just the idea of having somebody who understands you, who like gets the urge to kill, but also not in an evil way, I guess.
The scruples enough to pick and choose who it is.
Yeah. Well, and they're both fueled by the trauma of their childhood to be this kind of vengeful person.
Well, and they have two kind of separate backstories. They're not mirroring each other.
Right.
But they both do have a very strong trauma. With Rowan, it's his father was abusive and a piece of shit. And eventually his brother and him gang up on him and are like, we're done with this shit, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And that's the start of it for him. But I think that Sloane's is a lot more tragic in some ways, because there's two types of pain, right? There's the pain that you have inflicted on yourself, and then there's the pain that you have to witness being done to others. And for her, a lot of it's tied to, we don't know the exact details because they're not given in the book, but something very bad happened to Lark.
Yeah.
And Sloane stepped in and solved the problem.
Yeah, we get only a little bit of that backstory where the school they were going to sounded like a boarding school. The headmaster or principal, I don't know, did something to some of the girls there.
Yeah, and I was getting the impression it was happening to Sloane as well, but she didn't know it was happening to Lark, and when she did, that's when things went off.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room to debate in there. I'm not really sure exactly what happened. I don't think we're supposed to. Maybe we get more backlog of that with Lark's story.
I would assume that would come up more in Lark's story.
Yeah.
I do kind of like that they didn't go in depth to 100% what it is. Like, they gave you enough to understand, but she didn't go into it majorly.
Yeah, I never felt cheated by that. And I also think if we would have gotten either like flashbacks or like them talking about it in more depth, it would have ruined the tone of the book, which for a serial killer dark romance that does have some pretty gruesome things on the page as far as like hacking and slashing and all that, it's still just pretty lighthearted.
Yeah.
Their banter kills me.
Yeah.
The other thing with that is, if I'm understanding the characters that have been put on the page before me, right?
Yeah.
Discussing their trauma from their childhood reignites that itch. So if they're trying to pace themselves and not constantly be in, I need to chase down this high of getting vengeance or hacking somebody to pieces, they're not going to want to talk about it. So it doesn't make sense for those characters to give you anything other than a cursory overview anyway, because they're talking to each other.
Right.
Correct.
So yeah, I think that she did a really good job of giving us a lot of information very quickly, because honestly, the first chunk of this book goes very quickly.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, because we get to the first game. It's like the third or fourth chapter, something like that.
Right.
Ah, the first game. Coitus interruptus.
Is that what the chapter's called?
No.
I was like, what?
The chapters do. This is one of the books that actually has chapter names that mean something, and I like that.
Well, there you go.
Also, if you have the physical copy, each chapter has a playlist, so each chapter has a couple songs that you're supposed to.
What?
And they even have QR codes for Apple Music and Spotify that you can just scan.
What? That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Well, then I suppose it's going to be really like good for Leather and Lark, given that it's like it's got like the music element to it.
Right, because Lark she's working late because she's a singer. You don't get that reference?
I'm sorry, I don't.
I don't get it either.
It's the song Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter.
Okay.
Y'all need some pop culture in your life.
I thought you were going to say Better Taste in Music, and I was like, do you really want to try me on that one?
To be fair, do you listen to any new music?
Sometimes. It's just usually not very popular. Occasionally I'll listen to like really popular ones like Hosier or something like that.
So let's get back to talking about the first game.
Okay. So the first game, they get the text from Butcher's brother. They have to go to this town. So they get hotel rooms and everything. They're kind of looking around trying to figure out who is the serial killer. And there's a weird ass guy.
I knew immediately it was him.
Oh yeah, so did I.
Yeah.
Immediately.
But neither of them figured it out until she gets back one night and is having some fun with herself.
To be fair, I think she knew at that point that it was him.
Yeah, probably.
She absolutely did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at one point she gets mad at Rowan, not necessarily because he was spying on her, that too, but she's like, you interrupted what I was trying to do here, my guy.
Which I think is one of my favorite things about their relationship and their characters is Sloane is so meticulous. Everything is just like so planned out. And Rowan is just that bull in a china shop.
Mm-hmm.
And he just fucks with her life like all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
He is definitely that, like, if these two were friends and not more than friends, he would be the bumbling sidekick that, like, you've had somebody who's like danced around all the lasers and gotten past and is like up to the vault, and he's the one who like immediately walks in, how's it going? Face plants directly crosses all the lasers.
Oh yeah.
That's their dynamic.
Yes. Yes.
So she's playing with her taco with a vibrator, and is trying to lure in this killer. She knows who it is. Well, Rowan overhears her and is like kind of listening. He's totally listening. He's like, "Oh, what's happening?"
To be fair, though, to him, she does call out his name.
Yes.
So he thinks. He said it also could be something else. So it's like maybe wishful thinking, or maybe she actually was like, ooh, Rowan.
And also, to be fair to him, he goes to his room's door, listens, and then goes, I shouldn't be doing this, and backs away. And then he sees the guy on the wall.
Yeah. And loses his mind about it, which fair enough.
Yeah, there's a creepy guy in the wall peeping through the eye holes of the paintings to watch your friend get herself off. I was about to say off herself, and I was like, she's not dying.
She's
not dying.
Those are different
Two different contexts.
This is why the English language is complicated.
Right, indeed.
Well, to be fair, orgasms are called the little death or the something death.
By who?
The internet knows.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying
I need to know this knowledge.
Goes to a specific group of people.
I thought for sure you guys knew this.
No.
You've never heard of this?
No.
It is the French. The French.
That makes sense.
Le petit mort. La petite mort.
Le petit déjeuner.
Thank you. Which translates to little death and is often used as a euphemism for orgasms.
I'll take ape tit for 200.
Stop it. I thought for sure you guys had heard that before.
No.
Well, there you go. We've learned something.
I love learning some things. What was that?
No.
Wiggle stroked.
Listen, we all knew it was happening eventually. Like to go out doing what I loved.
Okay,
Stroking?
back to the... Stop it. Stop it. Damn it,
This is who we are. Fundamentally.
I'm so glad to let the world know that this is the shit that happens.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So she's getting off.
Mm-hmm.
And creepy guy is being creepy. And then like basically Rowan like busts him through her fucking wall. And that's how she knows this is going on. Like, they just tussling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he real mad.
Yeah.
Which, fair enough. This is your friend. It has not gotten any more. He wants it to because, as we have said, Rowan goes hard. He falls hard and fast.
I think that's another example of how they're the same but different
Mhm.
because they both have rage and
Mhm.
anger. And Rowan comes out in the typical, like, I'm going to barbarian rage
Mhm.
and hit things and all of that and be loud about it. And hers seems to be quieter and deadlier in that like way.
It's very representative of male rage versus female rage.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
You know, female rage, you might not know you're dead until 3 days after she's killed you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In many
Exactly.
ways, female rage is scarier.
But from her perspective, she doesn't know that this guy has like gotten out of the wall. And so
Yeah.
just Rowan's there and she's like, the fuck, my guy? What are you doing? And so they end up, I didn't follow this as well as I probably should have, but they like end up on this chase, tracking down this guy. And when they finally do get to him, Rowan's like, I am killing this one.
Yeah.
Like, just you sit your ass down. I'm killing this one. And it's so scary in that moment that his fellow serial killer in Sloane is like, yep, it's yours, my guy.
Yeah.
Go
That's
for
all
it,
for
my
you.
And she almost leaves him
Mm-hmm.
until like he comes out of it after he just beats this guy to death.
Barehanded.
Yeah. No assistance, just busts him open.
Yeah.
And he like calls out to her in this, I envision it in this way of like almost a quiet desperation about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she stays. And then we just skip over the fact that they're there for several days cleaning up this mess.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, I wanted to know what happened in those days.
I would have liked like a little section.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
to
didn't
be sure.
even
Didn't need to be a lot, a couple
No.
pages.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think that moment right there is what makes this book work for me as somebody who's not a big fan of dark romance. It's the mutual understanding of what the other one does and is going through that makes it work for me.
Mhm.
Because there's plenty of dark romances where the guy does exactly that, but the girl is like, I've literally never done anything wrong in my
Yeah.
life ever. And so it doesn't make sense for her to be like, that's the one. I pick that one. It's never been something I could understand, which makes a lot of those books really hard for me to read because I cannot get in the mindset of that guy just did something really fucked up. I love it. I love it. Want more of it. So I do think she's, by matching their energy and making them equals,
Yeah.
makes this book possible to have a very lighthearted vibe.
Agreed.
Yeah, I've read a few books where there is like a serial killer or like stalker situation, and one of the characters in that relationship is relatively normal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not inappropriate to say normal there. It's deviant behavior to be a serial killer.
It
It is, yes. You don't need to justify that to us.
Just
Don't be serial killers. It is not good. I feel like I'm going to take that bold stance.
okay. Good. Also, don't stalk people. You know.
Yeah.
Don't do that either.
Mm. But
Bold stance. We're firmly against that here at Wrong Dust Jackets.
yeah. But usually, like one of the characters, the not stalker killer one, is just kind of like they're overcoming something, and that's why they decide to like give in to the bad guy or the bad girl. Some is both.
Uh-huh.
But you're right. It always feels like incompatible.
Right.
Like I can understand a fling or like a let's fuck around for a little bit. Not with a stalker. That's
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry. But the like let's live happily ever after never seems to make sense to me.
It's hard for me to wrap my mind around. I won't lie. I want to be clear. I'm not yucking anybody's yum. I'm just saying that is a fundamental reason why those books don't work for me, because they break reality.
So in this one, we get two people who are both.
Yes. I understand why you recommended this
Yeah.
in terms of like, I think earlier on last season, we had a conversation about me not really finding a dark romance that made any sense to me. And you being like, this is the one. But yeah, so I really understand why you would recommend this because it's exactly what I'm looking for. Like, two baddies. I want two baddies, not one baddie who takes advantage of a goodie. I don't like it. I want two baddies.
Well, it also just kind of brings up the bigger conversation sometimes about romance where they have to have something that they connect on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I get the whole opposites attract thing, but I mean, technically Sloane and Rowan have a lot of opposite things about them, but they got to be able to have something that they can connect on. I
mean, to me, it's so often they might as well be generic characters that are inserted like Commedia dell'arte characters where like, this is the bad boy format. Oh, you want the good boy? This is the good golden retriever boy format. And there's like nothing else about their characters that matters.
Right.
There's just like, in this version, we put the golden retriever boy as a fireman. And in this one, we made him a businessman. Isn't that nice? Look at how different they are. They're wearing different costumes.
Yes.
Yeah, that is one of my gripes with romance. But this one isn't. They give you a lot of good depth to the characters, even when it feels like we're kind of getting cursory drop in throughout their lives, especially in the first part of the book where we're just getting them once a year, mostly.
Yeah. So the next big event after the first competition, before the cannibalism competition, is Lark convinces Sloane to go to Boston to visit Rowan. Because they've been texting like every day. And she also says they've been doing like video calls and phone calls and all this stuff. And we don't get to see any of that, which is kind of a bummer. But I understand that the point of this book is to get us to them getting together. And if that's stretching out over 4 years, we can't see everything. Yeah, we've got places to be, things to do.
And I appreciate that it's over 4 years that they've gained this friendship and relationship.
Right. So she goes to his restaurant, which is 3 and Coach, and doesn't tell him, which is obviously the wrong thing to do. But also as an introvert, and especially back in my more insecure days, I could see myself doing that.
I felt what she did in my bones.
Yeah.
I was like, I would definitely have done that, especially younger me.
Yeah.
And I think to a certain degree, she is emotionally stunted in that way.
Oh, for sure. Well, she talks about the only person she knows or really has any contact with before Rowan is Lark, which again is another thing that Rowan and Sloane have different, because Rowan has like his brothers, he has these friends, he has a life.
He's like fully extroverted too.
Yeah.
He has no problem chatting up an entire room, which we see later on when he invites her to this big fancy award ceremony.
Yeah.
And she's like, I would rather die, but I like the boy. Dear God.
Yeah. And so she doesn't tell him. She shows up. And when he finally comes out of the kitchen and sees her, she runs away, which I also felt in my soul. Like
I felt that one in my soul. I was like, yep, that's the thing I would do.
I don't think she maybe would have run away if the seating hostess had done immediately what was asked, which is like, if she shows up,
right,
you tell me. But it was the fact that Rowan's brother was like coming on way too strong. And she was like, I already don't feel like I belong here and I'm meant to be here and I shouldn't be doing this. And she was already kind of like, maybe I should go.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all these people are on her at once, including like all of the attention of the one boy that she's like, I like this boy and I want his attention, but not that much attention. Back off.
Well, their friend Anna was also like running up to him because all these people are there because, you know, the magic of book. The one day she happens to go up to Boston is Lachlan's birthday. And so they're having this big celebration.
And she leaves him a drawing
of a raven,
which comes back around later.
Yeah.
But also I really liked, I don't know why, it was pulling the heartstrings for me every time he was like, I wish you would have stayed. And he says that so many times throughout the book and I'm like,
I think the other thing that scene does, other than show us Sloane's insecurities, because that is such a contrast to who she is when she's killing. When she's killing, like, she's very confident. She knows exactly what she's doing. It's all planned out. And then this thing, which she did technically plan out, she's so insecure about. But it also shows us not only Rowan's extrovertedness and his family and his friends, it shows how fucking obsessed he is already.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has a standing reservation. Like, this booth in his restaurant is always reserved for her when they have never talked about her coming up to Boston ever one time.
Right.
It's like, this is Blackbird's booth.
And he flips out on the hostess, who was just doing her job and couldn't go back to the kitchen because she was seating other people.
Mm-hmm.
You can see how he kind of just has a tight rein on this control of, he just wants to punch something all the time is the vibe I get.
He is 100% dangerous all of the time.
Correct.
Yes.
He, I think, just acknowledges his danger when he's on the prowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he does something so cute and so stalkery, but so cute.
Right.
Yes, it's cute and stalkery at the same time.
Well, you know, he can't not be himself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like you said, it works because she's also as fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that cute thing that he does is he goes to her town and then watches from outside her building and has somebody deliver groceries to her and then tells her how to cook it while on the phone with her.
Right. The groceries and the calling her and walking through the cooking, that's cute. The going there and watching her creepily out the window is the bad part.
Yes. And not letting her know that you're there.
No.
He even says that he could very easily be in there with her and be helping her and it would be great. But no, this is better somehow.
I think the one thing he does throughout the entire book is how respectful he is of the fact that she is jumpy.
Mm-hmm.
She is always ready to run away.
Mm-hmm.
And he is terrified of giving her any reason to. So he always just stays back until she opens the door for things.
Right.
She's flighty like a bird, so he
Yeah.
I almost said respectful, but that's not really
I mean, in a way it is.
Conscious of
Yes.
her.
conscious of that.
Yeah.
And then we get to the second game.
Yeah, which I think is so well built up because we've been doing all this food stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And now we go do cannibalism. Yay.
Yay.
Well, and in that scene, we really up to that point, we're really seeing the differences between Butcher and Blackbird throughout it. But in that one, it couldn't be more obvious how different they are because she's there because she has figured out who it is and has planned out the murder. She's like, I'm shocked that he hasn't figured it out, but like, this is a competition, so sucks to suck. And then he shows up and is like, I'm charming and I'm funny. Can I weasel my way into this? And she's like, you didn't even do the research.
Right. And that would be me. I would be her without a doubt. I'd be like, you can't be here. You didn't work for it.
Right. He's like fully the like classmate who didn't participate in the project until like the day before it was due.
Correct.
Yep.
And it bites him in the ass hard.
Oh yeah.
I also get the vibe that in the second game, he kind of doesn't really I don't want to say he doesn't give two shits about winning, but he kind of just seems to enjoy way more just following her around and like being in her shadow.
Well, like you said at the beginning, listening to his dick
Yes.
far more than his head.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, she pretty. I like that. You're like, there's a murderer in the room with you. And there's, there's two murderers in the room with you.
There's a murderer in the room with you, and it's not me this time.
Right.
Right. We do get a tiny, tiny little like couple of paragraphs though, where before they go to this dinner party, they go shopping and she's trying to pick out a dress and he's like with her, like, I'm going to help you pick out a dress. I do wish we would have gotten a little bit more of that because it sounded really fucking adorable.
It did.
I do love, so they're at the dinner party and everything, and she is like screaming at him with her eyes.
Mm-hmm. Well, she at one point like is mouthing to him lobotomy.
Yes.
And he's like, you love me? That's so funny and she's like, no, please. I like the description afterwards because he ends up passing out from whatever the food is laced with. And
I think it's the drink that's laced.
The drink is laced and then the food is
Human flesh.
beef niçoise salad, but it's long pig and not beef.
Yeah.
Yeah.
is people.
Is people.
Soylent Green is people. Okay. And so when he finally comes back to consciousness, she's like fully got this
Yeah.
fancy prancy piece of shit guy who like pretends he's gonna help people and then is like, now I get to kill you, hunting for sport. And she's like, nah man, it's you and me now. You're trapped with the wrong one.
Yeah.
And so he wakes up, she's like fully at the eyeball plucking stage. And at one point he asks like how long he was out or something along those lines. And she's like, honestly, you should be way more grateful because I like saved you from choking on this like bad meat. And he's like, okay. And then vomits. There's a lot of vomiting going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like, no, don't vomit right here, like in the bowl.
In the bowl, or we're going to have to fucking clean it up.
And then she's like, David's really upset. The guy who had the lobotomy, quote unquote.
Yeah. And then we get the real insight to Sloane's character, which is she kind of is very protective of these like misfits or outcast people or
abused people.
And the cat that she got from the first game.
Yes.
It's true. She's like, I took the cat home last time, so you got to take David home.
It's actually what I thought. I was like, oh, you took the cat last time, Sloane, so now he has to keep David.
Yes is the answer.
Yep.
He acts like he's so like, no, I'm not going to do this. And it's like, come on, you already said yes the second she asked. You just didn't actually vocalize it.
Yeah.
So David, the lobotomized manservant of this guy, goes home with him to Boston to be a dishwasher in his restaurant, but not before they find the ice cream.
Yeah, and like it's a spoiler warning, but I think like everyone's told you, it's said at the beginning as a warning, like you might not like cookies and cream ice cream again after this. And I'm sorry, but I'm not that sorry.
Right.
But it's not normal ice cream.
No, because
there's some swimmers in there.
There is some swimmers in there.
They tried to replace the salt in ice cream with semen. Yeah, there's like a lot of logistical questions I have about that, but I think I'm going to keep them to myself. I don't think we need to go into it.
I don't think.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to think too much about the ejaculate ice cream.
No, we don't. So moving on. So yeah, after that they're like closer and not closer all at the same time because they're like both really want to be together but aren't together.
Yeah.
Well, they're both really busy because he is preparing to open a new restaurant. And she gets really busy at work too. She travels a bunch, doesn't she?
I don't know. She doesn't really go into it that much.
Yeah, like she has a job, but she basically she's like Chandler on Friends, where like no one knows what he does.
Yeah,
she does technically describe it, but it's not something that I understood.
Yeah.
Like she goes to medical conferences to describe new medical technology to doctors. I didn't really get it.
I'm sure there's somebody who has to be paid to do that thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it seemed like she had been traveling a lot during this time period too. So that like they were talking, but not really. And both really a little cray at the moment.
Well, I also think Sloane is one of those people that can be busy. You know what I mean? Like she can make herself busy even if she doesn't have anything going on.
Yeah. So
well,
not
I think
like
as
me.
soon as she gets done with one hunt, she's already starting on researching the next one.
Because she's not Rowan, where he's just finds somebody and kills them. She completely researches, does her maps, does all this shit.
Right.
Should we go into the third hunt?
Well, then we're skipping over the gala, the award ceremony.
Tell us about that award ceremony, Liz.
Oh, okay. Well, Rowan invites Sloane to Boston to go to an award ceremony where they say what award he's winning. I don't know if it's best restaurant in Boston or who the fuck cares. And this is where Sloane is really thinking that their relationship is going to start to take a turn because in her mind, they're doing something that's not about the game anymore. And she gets very dressed up and it's so nice and they're having a lovely time. And Rowan is like mingling with everyone and she's like, I hate this, but also the boy's here. So it's great because of the boy.
Yep.
But Rowan actually had planned another murder for them to do of this one guy. And so she feels like...
Let down.
Yeah. She feels like their relationship is still in that same box where they only can interact when it's about murder.
Well, and I think in Rowan's head, he's like, this is another way for me to get a chance to spend time with her.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This is me finding any way I can to get her to be here. And she loves murder, right? I know what hobbies she has.
Yes.
He's trying to find a way
to murder together.
Well, he's expanding their game, right? Like he's trying to take it to the next step
Mhm.
to spend more time with her.
Yes.
And he's trying to find a way to keep her interested.
And also, he's been having more and more the thought of like, I'm not comfortable with the game where
Yeah.
we're competitive because I don't know how to keep her safe in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the last one is the one where she saved his ass.
Right.
So,
Semantics.
whatever.
Boy logic.
I do like, and I think it starts pretty early though, where Rowan always says to her, you'll love me someday.
Yeah, that was cute.
And I loved it because it starts off in this like joking, like her picking on him or saying like, ugh, I hate you or whatever. And he's just like, but you'll love me someday.
Mhm.
And then it just morphs over time to the, you'll love me someday. And I like it so much. It's so cute. How is it that a serial killer book is cute? I don't know, but it is.
Good writing.
Yes, I know how. It's good writing.
It's
you know
good
how.
writing. I also do like going back to the moment when he's like, yeah, so I see that guy over there, fancy pants. Oh, we're going to kill him.
Yeah.
And then she's disappointed. The moment that it finally clicks for him and he realizes and he's like, I didn't even know that was a possibility.
He's like, wait, but I wanted that.
So that's exactly what I want, ma'am. And then immediately, because book logic, the restaurant's on fucking fire.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's like, God damn it.
And as we find out later, it's probably David.
Yes.
Yes.
Something that's not confirmed, but seems like all of the continuous problems that are happening at 3 and Coach, where
Mhm.
things are breaking and equipment's failing that shouldn't be failing,
Mhm.
is probably David.
Right.
One of the things, though, that I like about the way these kind of miscommunication moments happen between the two of them is they're not the typical, like, big miscommunication and everything blows up. It's these little, like, moments that happen between normal people all the time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Of like, oh, we just read the situation differently. And as soon as Rowan figures out that she's on a different page from him, he's like, whoa, okay, let's take a step back and like talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk. I want that. I want to go to there.
Well, and this is an anecdotal observation, obviously.
Yeah.
But in my experience, I think that does happen more frequently between extroverts and introverts.
Sure.
Because an introvert might say, I don't want to be at this party, but I'm here because I want to be with you. That's me doing a big gesture for you. And an extrovert might look at that same situation and go, yeah, they just came to the party because everybody came to the party.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, so it's really easy for that miscommunication, I think, to happen if you aren't really thinking about the other person's mindset.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or the extrovert might read into that in that same situation and go, oh, this is really putting that person out. I'm making them do a lot and they
Mhm.
don't want to be here. They're just doing it for me. When really, like, as an introvert, it's like, yeah, I don't want to be at a party, but you're there.
Mhm.
So I do want to be there because
Mhm.
you're there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the classic, I might not want to go, but I want to be invited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to go to this thing, but I want to be where you are. So I guess that's what we're doing.
Right.
Back on track. Where are we in the plot at this point? Are we up to the 3rd game?
Yeah.
That is the start of the 3rd game.
And that's where everything changes.
Oh, yeah.
May the odds be ever in your favor.
They weren't. I mean, I guess they both lived, but Sloane gets pretty messed up.
Yep.
Well, okay. Before we fully get into the 3rd one,
Yeah.
something I want to acknowledge is that I loved in this, and I don't know that I've, in all of the like Twitterings I've been seeing about people talking about this book, I don't know that I've noticed anyone acknowledge this, but she clearly takes the murders that they are like interrupting, the killers that they're killing are from classic stories. So like the first one's Psycho, the second one's Most Dangerous Game, the third one is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is fucking awesome.
Yeah, I noticed it too. And I was like, this is great.
I don't know why people aren't giving that more praise. That's all I'm saying.
I'm guessing because of everything, people are really focused on the witty banter, the comedy of it all, I guess. The romance is actually pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
And the spice when it happens is so spicy.
I mean, there's a lot of things to praise about this book, but smart writing to me trumps almost everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's smart writing.
It
That was
absolutely.
like chef's kiss.
So then we do go down to Texas, and they both are there at the same time. Like they both have gotten to this place together and are like, well,
Let's
guess
do
whoever
this.
gets to him first wins.
Mm-hmm.
And then they rock, paper, scissors to see who gets to go in the front door and who gets to go in the back door.
Not that.
And he wins.
Yes. But it is also kind of the first moment that they're really not fully in competition anymore, because the whole time both of them are thinking, I need to get to this person first to make sure that they don't get
They don't
my
hurt the other
person.
person.
Yeah. Which is how Sloane fucks up.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because she goes inside and finds the like security room where this guy has set up all of these cameras and stuff, and sees Rowan and that guy like stalking Rowan in the house. Like he's already figured out that those two are there. And so she freaks out and runs after him, and then he ends up getting her instead.
He's like right outside the door too when she runs out.
Yes. The thing I found really interesting about all of that is, first of all, I don't know. I'm not a killer, but I feel like the fact that they just let them kill that first guy, like they know they can hear the screams.
Yeah.
Right? Why would you not just like go in and catch him with his pants down?
Well, they both seem pretty hesitant to go in at all
That's true.
Yeah.
because it's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mom mummy is in like the front room, which they don't know right away. But I guess they probably figure that he has like weapons on him while he's torturing somebody, because they can hear the chainsaw. So they don't want to try to attack him while he has a chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't end well for him in the end, but
And also this guy is like already screaming. So we're not going to save him.
No,
He's done.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it's better to go in more prepared than brashly and make mistakes. Now, granted, they largely made giant mistakes, but you know.
Well, they also don't talk about going in with a weapon.
Yeah, I understand that Sloane prefers her knife. But what does Rowan have?
I don't remember it being explicitly said.
Yeah.
And maybe we're just supposed to infer that they are prepared for this, but clearly they weren't.
He finds an axe at some point.
Yes.
Because they're on a farm.
Yeah, he didn't bring it.
No.
Yeah. And maybe that's a Rowanism right there, that he just like freeballs it and is like, well, we'll see what happens when we get there. That's a choice.
It is a choice, especially going after somebody who has a chainsaw.
Yeah. Well, and also you get a clear difference of who Rowan and Sloane are fundamentally as a person, because when Rowan gets her, right, like he goes to save Sloane, there's that other girl is right there, and he's like, shut up, I'll come back for you. I gotta get her out. And she's like, don't worry, we're gonna he won't kill anyone else ever again.
Yeah.
Totally different approaches there.
Yeah, Rowan doesn't give two shits about that girl, and Sloane is just like, we'll save you, don't worry.
Yeah. And he's like, whatever, the cops will find her, it'll be fine.
It's not my problem.
You're my problem, bitch. Yeah.
Yeah, because she was locked in a basement or in like a shed or something, and her arm and shoulder are all dislocated and busted, and she has the Carhartt.
Yeah, she got Carhartted in the face.
She got face stomped.
Yeah, she got face stomped, and she's really upset about the boot print on her face.
I would be more upset with I can only assume, broken fucking nose.
Yeah.
You can't get face stomped and not have a broken nose.
Well, she talks about it later that her nose was broken but not completely
Not
out of
of
place.
alignment.
Yeah.
I just,
Oh,
maybe
God.
I'm sensitive to it because I've had it happen to me, but all I'm picturing is it going smash into her face.
Yeah. Well, they talk about this guy. I can't remember his name, and honestly, it doesn't matter. But game number 3 guy being a big bastard, right? Like he's not a small man.
No. And if he's based off of the guy in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, no, he is not. That is a big boy.
Yeah. Again, I think smart writing here is by basing these characters off of other characters. She didn't really have to describe them. Like I knew what
Yeah.
these people looked like.
We can
I
fill
saw
in the
him
blank so
instantly.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like she is better off through book magic than she should realistically be. That's all I'm saying.
Sloane.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, she has to be because they still have to fuck
A lot.
at the end of all of this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they finally admit some sort of feelings to each other because they kiss in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was more important than, I don't know,
Getting the
finding
fuck
the
out
guy
of there.
and getting the
Yeah.
fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sorry, if I had my face smashed in, I'm not kissing nobody.
No, I
stay
wouldn't
away
be
from
either.
my face.
No. I mean, the mess alone, but like also that probably doesn't feel good.
Well, for him to stomp so hard that the Carhartt impression is bruised into your face. Because when we say imprint, we are not talking about like a muddy footprint on her face. No, it is all the indents from the shoe
Picture
are bruised on
Harry
her face.
from Home Alone 2 specifically, Lost in New York, when he gets a fucking, oh no, it is in the first one. And when he gets a fucking iron dropped on his face and you're like, it's all fucked up. That's what we're talking about.
Except for it's bruised, that's burned.
It's true. But still,
Yes.
that's the
Same-
level of
same kind of
impression.
thing. Yep.
Only it's got stomped in instead of burnt in.
Well, and he also knocked her out with one stomp.
Yep.
I just pictured it.
And also, she was running. Like, she was coming out the door. So, I mean, maybe he knocked her out and then stomped on her face for good measure. But
Maybe he Chuck Norris'd her face.
He's a big dude. I don't know
It's
if
up
he
for
could do
debate.
that.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not entirely clear, and I'm just saying the math ain't mathin' on that one. That's one of the few weaknesses in this book where you're like, the fuck?
I do also kind of appreciate it because it didn't just instantly switch to Rowan's point of view when she went unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
It was she went unconscious and we didn't know what happened because she didn't.
yeah, well, don't worry. Rowan finds her. He saves her. And
That's true.
then he takes out the guy. And she literally scares him. Sloane literally scares this motherfucker to death.
Yep.
Yeah.
With his mother's skull.
Yeah, she takes his mother's body or skull
It's her
Something.
body, sorry.
and just like drags it up over his body
And talks to him.
and talks to him in like a terrible, I'm assuming terrible attempt at a Texas accent.
He has a heart attack.
He has a heart attack, but also like Rowan was right. That was some dark shit.
Yeah.
She went dark side. That's for
Yeah.
sure. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we get to meet the third brother because Rowan takes her up to Nebraska to get fixed up because his brother's a doctor.
Which the sound of driving from Texas to Nebraska with your shoulder dislocated.
And no shirt.
Yeah. And your face all busted up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought maybe that was a poor choice. She was probably bad enough. She needed to go to the hospital.
Mhm.
Immediately. But I also understand their perspective of if they take her to the hospital, so many questions are going to be asked.
There's
Yeah.
going to be so many questions asked.
Yeah.
So I think the drive is about, because you and I made it, was like 10, 13 hours. It was closer to 10 hours.
We made this drive?
Yeah. Well, I guess technically we made it from Nebraska to Texas.
You're right.
We did.
I don't think about the places that I cross through when I'm driving. I just think about beginning and ending.
It might not be that far, but I'm pretty sure it was like 13-ish hours from here to Texas.
Yeah.
So if you lop off,
Yeah. I think 10's a fair estimate.
Yeah.
We don't know where they're at in Texas. It's a big state.
Or where they are in Nebraska, for that matter.
right? That's a long time to. I'm hopefully she was just passed out. Hopefully she was just asleep.
I mean, we only get Rowan's perspective of the car ride,
Yeah.
and he implies that she's sleeping
Mhm.
Yeah.
most of it. Like he knows that he needs to change out the ice pack that is only being supported by her bra strap,
Yeah.
but doesn't want to wake her,
Yeah.
which I feel like is the right choice.
Yeah. If you're
Yeah.
unconscious mercifully in this situation, let it be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get to some hella spicy scenes.
Yeah. We're now about 2/3 of the way through the book, and we finally get the spice.
It does. She does make you wait for it. I will give her that.
It was worth the wait.
You might say she edges her audience.
Oh boy.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big slow burn.
Yes.
But the book is still interesting up till that point. Like sometimes
Yes.
you read books that are slow burns and you're just like, come on, you're dragging this out
You're
for
like, I don't
no
even
reason.
care. Just get to the fucking. But I did care in this one, so.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the way it comes about is another bathtub scene. Like these bathtub scenes, man, they just keep coming around, and I'm not
I love
opposed.
a good bathtub scene.
Yes.
But it also didn't seem either like forced or out of place.
No.
She's covered in a lot of crap from the situation.
Mhm.
Right. And also, it didn't happen right away. She got fixed up as much as Fionn, Rowan's younger brother, could. And then she was sleeping. And then she's like, I need to get cleaned up. I'm covered in mud and grime and blood. And Rowan was so sweet in that moment, too, because he was like, okay, I will get Rose, the other woman in the house. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to push this. But I can also understand why Sloane, especially being Sloane, would go, no, I don't want a stranger.
Right.
I want the one person I know here to
Right.
undress me.
Yes. Especially because she likes the boy.
Also because she likes the boy.
Also because she likes the boy. But also it cracks me up a little bit because she has many a piercing.
This is when we get to learn about her piercings.
Yes. And I didn't fully understand some of the downstairs ones.
You didn't look them up?
I wanted to, but I was afraid that my computer would suddenly be spammed with porn.
I can explain them to you if you need.
I mean, part of me likes the mystery.
Okay. So Sloane is the one who's all pierced, which is another good like flip on I don't want to say trope, but a slightly more common thing in a lot of dark romances is that the guy will have his dick all pierced up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. I never complain about that. But
And nips
No.
pierced a lot.
Yeah. So she has her nips pierced, her clit pierced, her labia pierced, and what is called a fourchette piercing, which is at the bottom of your...
That was the one I was confused about. I was like, where's the placement, though?
It's at the bottom of the entrance.
Got it.
I don't know. I don't understand vaginal piercings because in my head, I just feel like they would be uncomfortable or you would move wrong and somehow one of them would get like, I don't know, stuck on your underwear or something and it'd just be problems.
I'm going to be completely honest. Everybody can do with their body whatever they want, but this sounds like skinny people shit. Because like if your thighs ever overlap with your business,
Yeah.
that just seems like a recipe for pain.
Yeah. The only one that made sense to me was the clit one because that would be so tucked away.
Yeah.
it also apparently makes your clit very sensitive.
Right.
Yeah.
Which can be a dangerous game.
I mean, yes,
Yeah.
it is playing with fire on that one.
Right? Like imagine you're wearing a sundress one day and a light breeze wafts. now you're horny at the picnic. That's all I'm saying. Actions have consequences. That's all I'm saying, you know?
Yeah, well.
So she's pierced.
Yeah, and Rowan is very turned on by it.
Yes, he's very like, hello, ma'am. Listen, I already, you can't do this to me.
Yeah. And he tries to be so respectful in the bath too. He's like, no, I'm just cleaning the wound and the blood and the grime off of you. We're not doing anything. And she's like, but we could do something.
But we good.
My favorite part about it is the way she goes about it is, well, I'm going to be a brat. And I'm like, I love you for this.
Yeah.
She turns into a brat multiple times during this book. And I'm like, yep, you know how to do it. Just push his buttons until he gives you what you want.
Well, to be fair, when we get to the spicy scenes, Rowan is very in charge.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And like, it's a 0 to 60 thing. It's not like, okay, we've had one kiss that was only like half a chapter ago. and now we're going to do some spicy scenes. Okay, we'll just ease into it. It's like, no. we're doing this.
Well, he does one of my favorite things in romance books where he says, oh, insert name. And then you're like, you're in trouble, right? And so it's, oh, Blackbird. And I'm like, oh boy.
That's what you like.
I do.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, it has to be delivered correctly.
Yeah, I know.
You know, you have to have the swagger behind it.
He has a lot of swagger in the bedroom.
He does.
Oh my.
Oh man. I mean, we're dancing around it a little bit, but that's because it's like, this is a spicy book, y'all. Like, it's like we've read some spicy books. I would not say that this is the most spicy of the spicy books we've read, but I would say it's at least top 5.
I would definitely say of the not like monster ones, because once you start having like tails and multiple dicks and all of that, like that changes the game.
Yeah.
Although we have read monster ones that I would argue are significantly tamer.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah. So just by the nature of being a monster romance does not make it spicier.
No.
I mean, I don't know. I don't like, I don't know what to say. I'm not just going to be like, well, he does this and this and this and this.
Right,
No,
right,
and we
right,
never
right.
do that.
Well, and like, you know, I like to leave something to the imagination.
Right.
You
Yeah.
gotta discover that
If
yourself.
you haven't read it yourself, you should enjoy it yourself. And we shouldn't take that away from you.
Yeah.
That said, he's very controlling.
In a very good way.
Mm-hmm. She's very submissive. So, you know, if that's not your thing, you'd be warned, I guess. But
She's a little bit of a switch because she does brat
She
to a
does.
degree.
But only to the point where he's like, oh, you've turned this part of Rowan on.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the intention. That's the whole point of bratting, is to be like, oh, yeah?
We've dialed it up to 11.
You think you can?
Yes.
Try me.
But some of the things that I did really like about it is that it very much felt like all the frustration that you've been having as a reader
Yes.
is also coming through in everything that they're doing, and all the frustration they've had of years of pining for each other.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I will say there is one thing that I will describe because I have questions.
Uh-huh.
Because she does this in another book, the Brynne Weaver. She writes this in another book where Rowan falls asleep with his dick in her. Is like, she's like, I'm done. We've had too many sexy times. I need to sleep. And he's like, okay. And is like, puts his dick back in her.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just like confused at the logistics. And also, how the fuck you sleeping like that?
Well,
I
she
wouldn't be able
doesn't.
to- yeah,
Well,
she
doesn't.
Yeah.
He wakes up and fucks her again.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, is your question, is he hard or soft?
Well, no, we know he's hard because that's also described.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like,
Yeah, I don't,
is he behind her? Is he on top
Probably.
of her?
that's
he
how
talks
he
about
can't-
he like goes out of his way to like make sure her like arms like propped up
Yeah.
correctly and everything. So I think that he's probably behind her.
Yeah, I was getting the impression of spooning
Yeah.
dickery.
Spooning dickery.
Spooning dickery.
I love that. And I kind of want a t-shirt that says that with no context. Spooning dickery.
Oh, gosh.
I will say there are, after their various sexy times, there are also aftercare scenes, which I think are incredibly important, especially when the sex gets rougher, because that is a very important thing when it comes to like the BDSM culture and everything, is you have to take care of your partner as well.
Well, also, she's still very injured
Oh,
throughout
yes.
all of this.
Yes.
so-
Yes. Yes.
This
But
maybe
even if
wasn't-
she hadn't been, that's a very
Yeah.
important thing.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that in the scene where she is clearly still very injured, it is way more intense and dangerous, I would say, than the scenes where she is fully healed and can handle it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe we need to rethink some things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do also like, I mean, we talk about all the time, the reason to have spice in a book is that it is a plot point of its own, right?
Right.
And so, but not everyone hits that mark. Some people are just like, and then they're fucking. And you're like,
then-
but why?
Random sex scene for no reason.
Yeah. But the conversation that they are having amidst all of the sexy times is really important.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole point where she says something along the lines of, because you like me, this is why, this is how we got here. And he's like, you think I like you?
Right.
You think we're here, we're doing this, I did all of this because I like you? No.
Nah, son. That's not what's going on here.
Mm-hmm. And so you really they're really having the conversation that they probably would have had without sex had they not been interrupted at the gala.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So they're just having it while having sex. They got to make it for lost time.
And they do.
They do. They really do.
Yeah, because the last third of this book there's a lot of sex scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It had the same feeling of season 1 of Bridgerton, where you're like, no sexy time. There's a little sprinkle over there. Okay, that's fine. And then there's like, boom, 15 minutes of smut.
Right.
And you're like, okay.
All right, then.
That interaction, both the sex and afterwards, is definitely, it's the dam that breaks.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because Fiona, as the doctor, is telling Sloane, hey, you need to take it easy. You need someone at home with you to like help you with all this shit. And Rowan's like, no, she's going to come and live with me in Boston now.
Yeah.
No, we're going home. We're taking you to Boston.
And she seems a little bit hesitant, but not much. Like it did not take
She's
much
pretty
to
down with
convince
it.
her. She's like, okay, I guess I can do my job kind of from anywhere. So
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the other option is Rowan. I imagine the other option is that Rowan is going to go with her to Raleigh.
which just isn't feasible with the restaurant.
Right. And
Yeah.
then
And especially with the new one opening.
Mhm,
right.
mhm,
But Rowan definitely seemed like, wherever you're going, I'm going to. So let's just make this easy and have you come to Boston.
Mm-hmm. So then she sublets her house.
Yes.
Because I think she owns the house in Raleigh.
We don't know.
We don't really know what her life is.
Yeah, that's true.
That is the thing. We get none of her life. But to be fair, there probably isn't much of one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She talks about it all the time. Like,
I
the only
don't do
friend I have
anything.
is Lark,
Who is constantly on the road.
yeah.
Mhm.
And she's constantly on the road for her job too, it sounds like.
Mhm.
Yes.
So,
And for murder.
and for murder.
It's a wonder that cat is still alive.
You know, that cat's also a murderer, probably, of birds and rats.
Well,
That is
true.
how it's still alive.
yeah.
So she moves in with him. He opens the new restaurant.
Well, and we get this big reveal, but it's sort of teased during the sex scene because that's when she finds out that he has the picture she left for him at his restaurant the first time she visited
Mm-hmm.
tattooed on his back.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she goes to see the new restaurant, and it's called Butcher and Blackbird, and she has her own booth with this beautifully painted bird over her booth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, did you know I'm in love with you, but I haven't said it yet?
Yeah. And the booth has a like a carving in it that says Blackbird's booth.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the other thing we don't talk about is the reason that he picks that booth, and the reason at 3 and Coach, the one specific booth is always reserved for her, is she is so flighty that everywhere she goes, she has to be like equidistant to all the exits.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. And so it's equidistance to the back and front doors.
Yeah. So Rowan's obsession with her comes out in so many ways.
Mhm.
Like the way that he notices everything about her, obviously getting a tattoo when at that point they had not really done anything. Like they'd only done the game.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But it never feels too much. Like a lot of times when you read these books, there is a step that is taken that just like, come on, what are you doing? That's too much.
Yeah, it didn't feel too much with this one. You're like, oh.
Also, some of the things that he was doing are things that people would like to have done for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially women, right? Where it's like, I would like you to notice some of these things about me.
Right.
I would like you to notice the things that set off my anxiety. I would
Mhm.
like you to want to know those things about me.
Right.
And I'm not saying you have to adjust your entire life for me on that front, but it's not going to go unnoticed or unappreciated if you did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it kind of falls into, I think, the I'll say it, the fantasy in a lot of these books, especially if you start getting into like fated mates and all of that, where the man has a little bit of like that caregiver nature.
Yes.
Because naturally as women, we fall into the caregiver roles a lot. So to have somebody do that for you and not necessarily require it, at least as much from you, is very hot.
It is a game changer.
Yep.
Oh, and then of course he fucks her on the booth, but
Yeah.
And eats her.
He promised that he would do that.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes sure she knows that he's going to keep them promises.
Yep.
he sure does.
And he does it where everybody can fucking see him.
Again, you got to appreciate a man of his word.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Though the one thing I didn't like about that is leading up to that sex scene, they are going through the menu for Butcher and Blackbird, and they're making some of the dishes so that she can try them with him. And it's very cute and it's very sweet. But then she specifically says, I'm very full. And then they do this whole sex scene. And maybe it's just me, but I don't want to be full when I'm having sex.
No, you are correct in that one. I'm like, nope, I feel bloated. Don't touch me.
Yeah.
Again, that might be skinny people shit.
It's true.
I don't know what that life is.
I don't know either.
I've never been there.
Nope.
But I heard some good things. It's got mixed reviews. You don't get to enjoy your food, but also
Close fit.
society likes you better.
Also that too.
I don't give a shit what society thinks of me.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move on to the quote unquote third act breakup?
Surely.
Well, it's a pretty complicated
It is pretty complicated.
situation.
So there is a mechanical failure at his first restaurant. He goes there to fix it. And he is expecting her any moment. He fixes the problem and finds out that David is there with a gun.
Yeah, because our lobotomized misfit is not a lobotomized misfit. He's just another killer.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Like, I guess found out about their competition and was like, I'm just going to hang out at this other murderer's house and pretend to be a manservant for funsies.
And then for multiple years afterwards, just works in Rowan's restaurant.
Pretending to be a lobotomized
Misfit.
Yeah, we probably could have gotten a little bit more information about that. The one thing we get is that he's obsessed with Sloane.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of doing this to stalk her and get her somehow.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we're going to find out more about that in Leather and Lark, because we get kind of teased at the end. Or no, I think it's just in the description of Leather and Lark that his brother comes to avenge him.
Well, we do get that epilogue from his brother's
that's where it's
perspective.
from. Yeah.
But is it David's brother?
That's what I thought. So I'm hoping we'll find out more about David through that method.
I don't know if it was David's brother or if it's another killer that Rowan killed.
I don't know.
I think it's supposed to be someone that... I don't know. We'll find out.
We will find out. But so he says that he needs to get rid of Sloane. David says that Rowan needs to get rid of Sloane. So he breaks up with her in code, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Or uses a code as he's breaking up with her. And at first she's just devastated, runs home. She's packing her shit. She's going to get out of here. And
well,
he
uses all of her biggest fears against him.
Mm-hmm.
Or against her.
And she calls Lark. Lark's like, Rowan said this?
Mm-hmm.
Really think about this. And so she's like, I'm with you no matter what, but really think about this. So she does. And then she's like, wait a minute, the ice cream. And she pulls up her camera, which she has in Rowan's restaurants, which cracks me up that she put up her own surveillance camera in his restaurants.
But also feels very in character for her to do that.
Oh, fuck
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he very much treats these restaurants as hers now as well.
He does.
Yeah, he's very much the like, whatever I have, you have now. Have all of my things.
He's like, basically, ma'am, whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Just let me make you happy so I can be happy, please.
Because when she walks in the back door initially, like when he breaks her heart, she walks in with her own keys.
Which she makes a big point of saying, like, she's never had anybody's keys before.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And now she has the keys to his house or apartment. I guess it wasn't clear to me. But to his place, and then also both restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
which like the place makes sense because she lives there, but there's no logical reason that she would need a key to the restaurant.
Yeah.
Other than he wants to prove to her that
Yes.
like all of this is yours.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, that's right.
In which case, I could also understand why she would have a key to Butcher and Blackbird, but not necessarily why she would have a key to the other one. So it's very telling that she has a key to both sets of restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
But so she goes back and she's like, here's the thing, motherfucker. And she calls his brother. She calls Rowan's brother,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Lachlan.
Lachlan, and gets in there.
Yeah. And then she does a whole monologue, which basically being like, yeah, David, I didn't really like this fucker anyway. And we can kill him and then go off and
Mm-hmm.
have a good time, which there's no reason for her to do that. It
Other
doesn't,
than a little bit of payback to Rowan for what he just did. But
and also because I think she likes fucking with people a little bit.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
It's
it.
part of her game for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And, she takes care of business.
Yeah.
So messy that Lachlan had to come in and like
Clean it up.
do the whole thing of that restaurant. That whole thing
Yeah.
is start from scratch practically.
Well, also David made quite a bit of mess too because he was cutting off pieces of Rowan and eating them
Yeah.
with a mandolin. And that is the one scene that I'm just like, I had to like take my headphones off when I was listening to it and go, not again. This is my second time and I'm not doing it again.
Yeah. Well, all I could think, and for the Buffy fans out there, you'll know.
No, don't. Why? You have to put that in my head. No. Yeah.
I have nothing. Tell me everything.
There is a monster, I believe it's in the college years, that manages to kidnap Willow. And he's torturing her.
Yeah.
And she can't move. She's paralyzed. And he's literally taking strips of her belly meat
Yes.
off of her body and eating them right in front of her.
Eh,
And not like there was no other visual that was gonna pop in my head. Of course, that would like pull. It was like, remember that that trauma, and I was like, I do. So it was a time.
It was a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the conflict. So the third act breakup doesn't last very long.
no,
There's
it's very short.
There's a little bit of a build up to it where they're kind of having not miscommunication issues, but just like a little bit of a disconnect in their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly just because Rowan's so busy with
Mhm.
2 restaurants.
Right.
And
And a little bit of, it's probably just a little bit of an adjustment period too, with them being together all the time.
well, and he is becoming more and more protective of Sloane, especially because we talked about her physical trauma in the third game with getting her face stamped in and her
Mhm.
arm dislocated. He had a lot of trauma from that too because he's freaked out. Like he does not want to do the game anymore,
Mm-hmm.
at least not as a competition. He wants to just do it together
Mm-hmm.
so that she doesn't get hurt.
Right. And in many ways, Rowan has made Sloane his anchor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think there's a part of him that isn't just afraid of losing Sloane because he loves her and yada, yada, yada. I think there's a part of him that is afraid of losing her because he's going to lose himself right along with it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's there is no coming back from that for him. He's just a monster then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But luckily we don't have to deal with it for very long because Sloane figures it out pretty quick.
Yes.
She does.
Good job, Sloane.
And they tell each other that they love each other, and it's very nice.
That is very nice.
And then they hunt and kill together.
Yes, and she designs a tattoo for him.
That's true. In color, which is a
color.
big deal because she talks about how her passion has been killed by this shitty professor, teacher, whatever he was, that she's killed. That after that she couldn't draw in color or couldn't use any color medium. The only
Yeah.
thing she could come back to was pencil and graphite.
Yeah, and that's the book.
Yeah.
That is the book.
So, ratings time. Or, excuse me, ratings time.
I love it. I love it. So we'll start off with Spice.
Oh, spicy spice.
Oh, the spice.
I give it a 4. It's not the spiciest book we've ever read, but it was quite nice and spicy. It took a long time to get there, but it ramped up real high once it got there.
Yeah, once you got there.
I will agree with a 4 because also when it got there, it was good spice.
Mm-hmm. It was well written spice.
I enjoyed it. It was a good time.
I'll
probably read it again.
I will agree with a 4 on the spice. Romance.
The romance. I'm going to give it a 4.
I was also thinking a 4. It
Same.
is surprisingly very romantic.
Yeah.
It is. I take points off because of a little stalkerish thing, but that is also the nature of this kind of book.
Right.
So.
Right.
And of the stalker romances that I've read, because I do kind of enjoy them now and again, I feel like this one is written just so well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not just like the writing, which it is, but like the way the stalkerness is like, it feeds
it's not
into
justified
the rest of
for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can accept it when they're both doing it to each other.
Right.
Yeah. Because they are both doing it to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall,
I mean, I can tell you that the first time I read this, I gave it a 5. I read it again, and honestly, probably still a 5 because I will still read this again at some point.
It's a 5 for me too.
Yeah.
I think it's a 4.5 for me just because there were a few parts of it that were the drug for me. Like after he's sends her away, that part I just was like, okay, can we just get to the part where you figure it out? And so there are just a few moments like that where it's like the pacing was so good and then there'd be these little drop offs. And so it's in an otherwise very, very, very good book. That was a bit of a weak point for me.
That's fair.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, hot damn. What are your guys' recommendations?
I'm going to go with Dexter. There's the serial killer killing bad people's situation. There's also romance in Dexter.
There is romance.
Yes. Very tragic romance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like the not happy version of this story.
Yeah.
So my recommendation comes with a slew of trigger warnings. Although if you've read this book, you're probably fine, but everybody's got different triggers.
Mm-hmm.
Do not go into this movie if you can not see yourself being okay afterwards discussing SA a lot. And that movie is Promising Young Woman.
I've never even heard of this.
No, me neither.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So the premise of this story, and I would say to anyone who can watch it, it should be required watching. It should be required viewing. If you're going to be triggered by it, please, please, please do not watch this movie. But the premise is that this girl in college, her friend is horribly assaulted, and she's never been able to get over it because her friend ends up dying. And so she's seeking vengeance in the only way she can think of, and ends up and goes to bars and pretends to get blackout drunk. And then when a guy inevitably takes her back to his apartment, she confronts him on it soberly. And the rest, you need to just watch the movie to let it unfold as it does. It's very dark. It's complicated. It's very smart. It's saying so much in such a short amount of time. It's one of those movies where I watched it and a month later I was still thinking about it.
Okay.
So, yeah. Promising Young Woman.
My recommendation is not going to be as heavy. It's Black Sheep by Brynne Weaver and Alexa Harlow, which is another serial killer romance, except the FMC is a serial killer who is specifically hunting cults or cult leaders. And the MMC is a professor at the local university where she's getting her doctorate in psychology. I will say very much you can tell was written before Butcher and Blackbird, and Brynne Weaver learned a lot from that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's a bad book by any means. It's just...
No, but we all learn from our past.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even authors that I've read entire series of, I as they go through the series, I'm like, wow, you're getting really good at this. You know?
Aw, that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've totally done that too, where I'm like, oh, look at you doing your thing.
Mm-hmm.
The worst is when they go back though, and you're like, oh no, don't do that.
I feel like usually that happens when they have too much pressure of like a deadline and not enough editing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the end of the episode, folks. If you like this, please find us out there on the socials at Wrong Dust Jackets. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think of this book or what you think of anything else we've done, I suppose. We'd love to hear from you. Or you can find us out on our website at wrongdustjackets.com. I do even have a blog post of Black Sheep. So if you wanted to read my thoughts and opinions before reading the book, you sure can. And then like us on whatever podcast app you're listening on. Give us 5 stars. It would mean a whole hell of a lot. That's all I got. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.